hello. We are back with another Tourney Ground.
Hello, hello.
I'm Mickey. This is Carlo. You know the drill, guys. Um, but we've got some extra special kind of surprises here for us today. Um, some different things going on. And so, I've got two guests to introduce. None other than Bartender himself. Where's that beautiful man? There he is.
Hi, everybody.
Look, this is Bartender. We've
Hi.
got a name in the face.
Yep.
And his colleague over from Poland, we've got Bloodraven.
Hello, guys, and I have no face today.
No, you don't. Unfortunately, it was removed for PG purposes. Right then. So there's going to be four of us. Wow, it's the most people we've had on Tourney Chat forever. Since
Absolute party.
There we go. So it's the first time. For absolutely fantastic news for four people. But no, we've got some interesting stuff today. Now, this is super secret. No one else knows about this. And I know it's super secret because they asked Carlo if they could come on, and Bartender was like, yeah, let's do this thing. And then I asked Bloodraven and was like, oh, we're coming on, are we? Cool. So, whatever. We'll see how that goes.
And I don't know what it is.
Carlo literally doesn't know what this is.
Mickey got revealed 10 minutes ago what it was, but I have actually no idea what it is.
Actually,
I mean, I think wild. I can start speculating like usual, but you know what? I won't even bother.
Well, to be honest, Mickey was smart enough to figure it out himself.
Yeah, I figured it out myself, Carlo, because Bartender forgot that he had me onto the GitHub account ages and ages ago when I was originally going to leave my job.
Nice.
So I actually saw the update yesterday.
I was just about to say that can't be right because Mickey's not the smart one in this pairing, and I haven't figured it out. So he wasn't smart enough to figure it out, and me not be smart.
But you're a very brave man to let me on not knowing what I'm going to show. So
mean
anything.
Hey, look. You could barely show or say something more damaging to my reputation and channel than things that I've said myself. So, don't worry, it can't get that bad.
So, Bartender, I'm going to show your screen now, if that's all right. And
go ahead.
We'll dive in. Do you want to explain what is going on?
Okay, yeah, let's do this. So basically, this is TTS as you know it today. And this is going to be TTS as it's going to be in the future. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
So.
Yeah. Where did they come from?
So yeah, I think it's probably a good point in time to hand over to Bloodraven and explain.
Well, where to start? About 2-3 weeks ago, when my country got hit a bit more with a second COVID wave, I decided that I kind of don't like the flat cardboard models that we have. So I did some searching on YouTube and found about an hour-long tutorial that basically was for infinity figures, and it was how to put your mini into the TTS. I pinged Bartender and sent him a link and asked him would it work. He said, okay, let's give it a try. So after a few dreadful attempts with a cell phone, desk lamps, and homemade turntable, and stuff I'm not going to mention right now. We were able to scan. I was able to scan Tyrion, send it to Bartender. He was able to put it into the game, and from now and from that point, we know that we have a cool thing to do. So for the last 2 weeks, I guess, I was scanning Lannisters and some neutrals unit. Bartender was scanning Starks, and I believe Yannick also scanned a bit of Targaryens here.
Amazing. So what's in the game at the moment?
So yeah, basically what you're looking at right now. So these are all the models we've scanned so far. Yeah, and today Bloodraven was on a roll. Quite a few new models.
I was on the roll yesterday.
So in my lunch break, I added some to the mod, and then after after I completed work, and yeah. So the fun thing is that I don't know, maybe a few weeks back, somebody else already approached me with that same video, but then nothing came of it. And I was a bit doubtful because I've tried these photogrammetry a few years back, and the result was like terrible. Barely could recognize anything. So I had my reservations, and then asked, yeah, basically. So when Bloodraven came to me again, I was like, I don't know. Somebody else told me about that already. I have doubts, but go ahead, send something. I'll try it. And I was quite impressed by the result.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
and
So
to put some inside knowledge, the Tyrion that you see here, it's not the first Tyrion that was sent to Bartender, because the first one I scanned didn't have the base. It was just a model that I was working on, and I decided to scan it. And I was able to scan it really well. And after that, it took me 6 more attempts to make a good photos of Tyrion with the right base.
Yeah, and I have to admit,
so still a bit hit and miss. Still working through the kinks. Yeah.
It does require some trial and error before you got the setup right.
Yeah.
So I got lucky. I scanned the wolves first, and they went in like a charm. So I was very motivated to keep going. And the next model was, I think, the swords, and that was hell. It took so long to get that properly scanned in.
Probably because the mod knows that he actually has a flat face. He's not actually even the Swan Sword is such an old model. He's not even 3D. He is actually 2D. That's where you're wrong.
To be honest, the face is not the biggest problem because after some time we figure out what is wrong, and right now scanning and taking photos goes really smoothly.
Yeah.
But the worst offense that you can get is to put a lot of metallics on your figures, because they reflect the light and it makes the software go crazy. And very often the flat armor have holes in them. So this is hell to deal with. And if you look at my Warrior Sons unit, I don't know if he's here.
Yeah. Is that him there?
So this guy is full metallic. If you look at his cape, it is metallic, and over it, it's only 2 inks. So it was a pain to scan.
So this is all real colors, right? None of this is false color. This is actually the colors that people have painted their models. Well, who are, I say people, you guys, you have scanned them
exactly,
and then it picks up real colors and converts them in.
If you're looking at the Lannisters, you're looking at my figures. If you're looking at Starks, you see Bartenders. The colors are a bit tuned to the TTS, something like contrast and lightning, but nothing special.
No, that's
and what's the plan going forward? Do you have people for all factions, or are you still looking for collaborators? Are you looking for people to jump in? Is that what we're here for today?
That's one of the reasons we're here. So if anybody wants to help out, just reach out to Bloodraven or me, ideally via Discord on any of the Song of Ice and Fire Discord channels. I'm on a few server. So just send me a message, send a message to Bartender, and then we'll maybe can discuss this. We definitely need some help. As you can see, Lannisters, we have got going. We've got the Starks going. I think Yannick will hopefully when he has more time do the rest of the Targaryens. But there's the Baratheons. We have nobody to do Baratheons yet. We don't have anybody for
Well, I
free
could get you
fall.
about a copy of one of every model in the game, but unfortunately, we know that I've only got about 3 painted models. So, so unfortunately, you're only going to move to a 3D. You're going to move to a 3D single color.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Think about it that way. If you paint one model, we can make an army of it. So you don't need entire tray.
That's it. I mean, in case you couldn't see on stream, I'm currently deliberately now trying to paint Jarl, which is the fastest I've ever picked up a paintbrush and tried to do something, because I 100% think this is a brilliant idea. Yeah. No, I'm hyped.
I tell you who's just dropped into the chat, Tim Whitney. Tim Whitney's just said hello to everybody, and if Tim has the capability to put some of his models into the mod, then he's got some absolutely beautiful ones.
Yeah,
so
Tim's stuff on Discord
gets involved.
is spot on.
Well, maybe we should say a few words about technical stuff. You probably need a decent camera. The one in the cell phone is not the best. You're looking for something with a good aperture, if I remember the name correctly, so the whole picture can be focused. Besides that, you need some kind of a lighting. The white box would be perfect, but you can do without it. And you can make or buy a turntable. I and bartender, we did our
I get
own.
my stuff. Just wait a second. I can show what I'm using. It's very easy, actually. Give me a minute.
It's doable to make.
No, this is
brilliant.
This is brilliant.
Yeah.
And you need some time and patience.
That's the thing. That's the thing we all lack. Well, I do. Otherwise, my models would be painted. I am absolutely amazed.
To be honest,
did not think that this was going to be what we were talking about, and I'm super, super impressed. We have 2 mountain that rides, which is
yeah,
unique, right?
the one of them is the Yannick model that he scanned as a test one, so we have him as well.
I mean, we don't even allow him in tournaments. Why do we have 2? and the real question is why did we have to start with dogs, right? Only because they're the most unit.
Obviously.
That was the first thing I said to bartender. You act like typical Stark. You could scan everything,
Exactly.
but you took the dogs.
Right. What can I say?
Let's start a list. What we're going to add? 3 dogs. There we go. Okay, cool. What next?
I don't know if you can see this box that I built. So it's basically a cardboard box and some, what's it called? The stuff that you wrap your
sandwiches
in. Your bread
paper,
in, or whatever.
Parchment paper, maybe.
So, yeah, like pergament paper, whatever. And then there's a template that you can print out. So we can also provide that. It's also in that video that Bloodraven mentioned that's done by the Infinity guys. So yeah, I've just printed that out and then put it on a piece of foam core and put a nail in it, and that's basically it. So it's a very simple, cheap turntable, right?
That's
so that's all you need, and some cameras. So the camera I'm using is an old Sony Alpha, so it's also not like a massive big camera or whatever. It just takes some testing to get the ideal settings, right? That really took a while.
You probably need a steady hand. To be honest, I was joking about it, but after some time, I figured out that my wife has a better hand for this than I. So yesterday we stay late until 4 a.m. and we were shooting.
And slave labor was enacted.
Yeah, slave labor was a good term.
Also, maybe one thing that I can briefly show. Let's get rid of that. Let's go here.
I know that site.
Is that a Song of Ice and Fire-stats.com? Ah.
Maybe.
That site I can't log in lately. I couldn't.
So the thing is, the whole thing currently supports both, right? So if we have a model we use the model. If not, we use the standee.
Mm-hmm.
So we can actually, I think, going to start putting something on fairly soon, because
Ooh.
it also allows us, if we get previews from Michael or from somebody,
Mm-hmm.
we can start putting the previews in still fairly early without having to have the model in place. So that was kind of important for me, that that was an option as well.
I think it's brilliant.
I'm blown away.
Yeah.
I'm blown away.
I think it's a game changer for a start. I think it will kind of reinvigorate people into the model side aspect of the game. And I'm not even joking. Like, I was already getting some hype because of other painting challenges and things going on, but now I've seen this, I actually really want to paint my faction up because I want to be able to say, look, there's my models or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. Honestly, I think it's brilliant. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, really. It's just...
Yeah. I mean,
glad you like it, guys.
Guys, it's absolutely amazing. I want everybody who, I know nothing about cameras. I know nothing about cameras. Anybody who owns a camera and a painting model, please help. Do it. Go help them. Because
yeah. And
I want to see every model in there.
There are people in chat as well who do some, like, we talk about Tim. Tim does some absolutely classic stuff. Even some of Lee Teddy's or Chris Eustace's, his stuff is great. There's loads and loads of people on there that make this lovely stuff that we can't see because the world is on fire. So yeah, I think it's going to be amazing to see it in the game. Really, really hyped.
I think the TTS has really helped keep interest in the game as a whole, or like the tactics part side of the game, interest in all that kind of stuff, interest in competitive A Song of Ice and Fire. But I do think that there's been a massive hole in keeping interest in the hobby, like the whole hobby side of things. And that bit, for me personally, because we're in very strict lockdown and have been for a very long time, that bit has been missing for so long. And between, there being new painting discussion, new painting channel, as we mentioned, there's the Tale of X Gamers just about to start in the TSL Discord, and that's got me painting and finishing models again, and all of that's got me excited about Song again as a whole thing, and the reason why I like playing tabletop games. And this has got me excited about that whole aspect of the hobby again. I can't wait. Like,
I haven't been painting in I don't know, I think since April, and just today I picked up a brush and started
painting Tully Cavaliers.
Tully Cavaliers and some other models. So
don't let Bartender ever tell you he's not a power gamer. Look at him. Look at him. Wolves, Rob, and Tully Cavaliers. That's like the only thing. That's the only thing he's got painted.
Rob, I don't have painted, unfortunately.
I would give him a hard time about it, but I scanned Tyrion first, so.
You can't say he's not 100% power gamer because he hasn't done Howland yet, I don't think. So
Yeah.
No, fantastic. There's obviously.
But there is a Sparrow and Tyrion on the Lannister side. So.
First,
there we go.
Is this going to be Race to Dragons? I can turn this is going to be the Race to Dragons, isn't it? First person to come up with the best painted dragons.
Yep.
There you go. Someone takes the Drogon spot, so you frantically change over to painting Rhaegal or something. Fantastic.
Yeah, but best thing, if you want to contribute, the best thing to do is reach out to me first. Then I can kind of coordinate. So
I think we would need some kind of Google spreadsheet for that at some point.
So that would help. And I don't want anybody to then be disappointed because maybe it's already in place or whatever. So just keep that in mind. Reach out to me. I will also share some assets. There's a slightly different basis that we need to be using, so I'll share those out. I think I'll set up some site or something.
Cool.
But reach out to me.
Brilliant.
There is also an idea that ideally we would like to have one painter per faction, so the whole faction looks cohesive. enough.
And bases as well, I guess, want to be quite cohesive.
But it's not a rule written in stone, so that's our just.
I think it's more important to get everything in place, and it's a tall order. It's a lot of effort, especially the first models you're going to be scanning. It'll take a while until you get the hang of it, and then subsequently it gets a little bit easier. But still, it's a lot of work, a lot of time.
But when you figure out this, it goes pretty smoothly.
Cool.
All right. Cool.
Brilliant. Chat absolutely loves it, guys.
Great. I'm happy. Glad to hear that.
So I think you may have just set. The world. I said the world was on fire. I think you've just set the Discord hopefully on fire now, and people are going to be super hyped. Because I am definitely.
Great.
Right.
Awesome.
I feel like, is there any point having the rest of the episode? Because nothing we can say can top this.
No, now you have to.
Oh.
Nope.
Now we have to come with our signature neg over all of that. Over all that. We have to tell everybody why the game's shit, and we don't actually like.
So. I'll leave those nice pretty pictures up there while we talk about the next thing we were going to talk about. The news kind of coming out, which is kind of like, this is kind of like replace the news, if you will, for me. In that we just got told that some models are going to be delayed. Like, was it last week? Thursday, Friday last week? We found out that...
It must have been Friday, I think, or Thursday, late Thursday night, something like that. Yeah. I remember because I was doing my stats chat video, which is done on a Thursday night, and it was, should I bother to talk about this? Do I want to talk about the delays?
Yeah.
No. No,
you don't want to have to deal with it. No.
Well, I'm still not 100% sure what's going on. As in, some people are still saying that their store's getting them. Some stores say they're not getting them. I don't know if it's a Europe problem, a worldwide thing. By problem, I mean I don't know if the delays are confined to Europe or not. But it seems the rough rumors, or what I can work out, is that Asmodee are delaying some things from being released, which are already in the warehouses. So supposedly they exist and they're very close to distribution hubs or whatever, but they're being delayed because other people don't have them and they want them to be released at the same time.
I think that's right.
Seems to be the story.
It's my understanding too. Bartender, your thoughts on model release delays and...
I don't really know what to say. I've mentioned earlier that Asmodee Germany, at least, basically I think the same day or so, released their release schedule for the next half year or whatever that was, for the German releases, the translated releases. And obviously, what we get here in Germany, it's not like German only. This is basically the international version of the boxes. So they contain 5 or 6 different languages. And so those would go out to, basically all those different countries. And I think it's more or less up to the current releases, I think, with the exception of the Dragons or so.
I'd actually never even thought about this. So, I'm going to ask you. So what's on the shelf in your stores, in your local stores? All German, or do they have English stuff as well?
Both. Yeah, it's mixed.
So do the English releases predate the German ones? If you want something early, do you have to buy it in English?
Yes.
Okay.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And what do most people buy?
Whatever is available. So okay. I mean, for the new stuff, I tend to buy the English versions because they are available earlier.
Okay.
But if it was in the past, if it was something that I wanted to have, like, I don't know, the Great X's or whatever, I got those in German. I mean, it doesn't really matter all that much. The cards will eventually, or may eventually, be outdated anyway. So you're going to use whatever is in the app.
So in general, your English language stuff will be available on the same release date as the rest of everybody else, and then at some point later, you'll get German release.
Yeah. I mean, you know how the logistics are. It's sometimes
not perfect, but
it can be tricky. But basically, yes.
Yeah, I just wasn't even the things you're completely oblivious to when when you rule the world as the British do, right?
Yeah.
We'll just leave that one. We'll let that one sit.
Bloodraven, over obviously in Poland. What about yourself? Where do you stand on the whole release thing? And of course, I guess the same questions to you. Do you buy English product? Or do you buy Polish product?
We don't have Polish products, so that's easier here. To small market.
Yeah.
But we have a pretty decent supply of English ones, so we can't complain. And talking about the delays, personally, I'm kind of dead inside for this kind of stuff anymore. So just it will be when it be. Fine.
I mean, it's not a massive
I'm
deal
just
for
taking
us.
pictures and.
It's not a massive
right
deal
now,
for us
that's
anymore,
the only thing.
because the idea of physical gaming, as we were just talking about, the UK's gone in lockdown. You've just been talking about earlier, Bartender. Germany's gone back into lockdown. I think the idea of physical gaming is, slipping. I was hoping for a Christmas game, and I think that's slipping away. And by slipping away, I think I was completely false in hoping that I'd be out of my house until Easter next year. So
I started learning. I started teaching my 4-year-old to play. So that's
admirable.
So far, he's pretty good at chopping the figures.
I know Carl from West Coast Bannerman regularly loses to his relatively young son. So it won't take. I'm sure it won't take your son long to get good.
I hope so.
I mean, for me, like I made a video some time ago. I forget when it was. Talking about lack of releases. This wasn't particularly talking about delays, or maybe it was talking about when we first maybe found out that Greyjoys weren't going to come out this quarter or whenever. Anyway, I've spoken about it on videos before, and people's response was, "Oh, don't complain about not getting, don't complain about just not getting your toys." But like, it's becoming such an epidemic of it with this product, and point is at this point, like, I'm just not surprised. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not surprised. That's the thing. I'm actually not even that disappointed. I am disappointed because I really have this stuff on order and I want it to arrive, but I'm so unsurprised that it's been delayed again, even days before they're supposed to come out. That is just classic, and that I think it is genuinely starting, really, really on a real level, starting to erode the future of the game, like the future success of the game.
Well, I mean,
so I think that's
the Facebook community, and I know the Facebook community can always be very different, but and there's always lots of different opinions. But we saw on the day of that announcement, we saw 2 or 3 different individuals post on their things that they would no longer be purchasing the game, and you saw armies going up for sale. And that's a shame, and that's directly because of the delays.
Something about the age of a game. Once it gets to a certain age, anyway, there'll be a churn of people of selling their armies and stuff like that. So I'm always trying to decide whether or not the game is just of that age or if there are lots of people exodusing. But I see a lot of armies for sale. But you also have to be careful because Facebook has that that cyclic effect that as soon as I look at a post of somebody selling their army, it's like he wants to see more posts like that, and it shows you more, and then you never know whether or not it's real or if you're just looking at some Facebook created fallacy. So
from my point of view, I've got enough unpainted models anyway that I need to paint, and in-person gaming is not really a thing at the moment. So it's not for me personally a big issue, but I get it. It's always a bit of a problem with collectible games, right? You need to have a somewhat consistent supply of releases to keep people engaged. I think that's with any collectible game.
Yeah.
So the worst thing you can do, I think, is like release a whole bunch at once and then not do anything for a long time, and then again do a big drop. I think it's better to, have somewhat regular releases, small releases that people can, can keep staying excited.
To be honest, when I think about this situation, I don't say I don't mind, because I'm not a Tark player, but I'm not bothered by the delay as much as I'm more bothered by the lack of community feedback from Simon and dealing with the rules side or the balance side of the game. Also, at least we could get some kind of new game mode, or one of the beta game modes could be promoted to the final version as a we delayed stuff again, but here is something that we could do that doesn't get hit by COVID, by shipping, but factories in China, by our distribution. So we just took a few guys and we developed something cool for you guys. So
yeah, exactly. I think
something I would expect.
I think they could have acknowledged the fact that people are waiting on these releases. Like, when you list the number of releases we've actually had in the past year, they are very, very thin. And they have given us these dates and then delayed them. If you can acknowledge that that is going to leave people with a lack of interest, then if they could have released more things like Battle of the Whispering Woods, that like story-based non-competitive scenario, or the 6 beta game modes that they put out, if they could have released more of them into their full final versions instead of saying, okay, we picked one of them and it's now here's the final version or whatever, they could have. I think they need to take more responsibility on themselves for keeping people interested in the game right now. They don't seem to be communicating in a way that keeps people interested, and I think that there's a disconnect there. There's an absolute disconnect, and that's the issue, that they neither acknowledge it nor seem to try and remedy it. So we'll see what comes. We'll see what comes. But I had already spoken with a number of content creators, and like the thing that kept coming up was Q4 is really important. They need to inject life back into Q4. They need to do it right. And right now, Q4 is actually looking like one of their worst disasters, because they got so close to people thinking that it was going to have these things, and now they're not. So I don't want to have to say, but like Q1 2021 is going to be so important. Like Q1, like it's got to be big, otherwise. And if we keep kicking it down the road like that, then it's gonna be a problem.
I'll leave it with my last thought, and then we'll look at some tournaments. We'll move on to happier days. But I'll leave it one thing. I was positive last week that communication from Simon had improved. They were putting out, the advertising stuff, saying, look, this is when stuff's going to be out. This is when it's going to be stuff out. And I was really happy. I was positive about that. I thought that, brilliant, fantastic. And I think they've taken a step back this week, because it wasn't even Simon that told us that things were going to be delayed. And that, for me, was kind of like a bit of a kick in the teeth. We've got backhand information from companies, from Asmodee, telling shops that stuff's going to be late. And that's pretty sad for me, because I'd like to have seen that information come out from Simon themselves. But that being said, it is still something that we can look forward to. I'm still, there's a horizon there that's really bright and amazing and shiny. The path is getting a bit longer every time. So we'll see. Yeah. Right then, I'll hide these lovely physical models. I think everyone's had enough of that, although I definitely know I haven't had enough of it. Give me more. Why haven't you got a Free Folk army in there yet? Be better, bartender.
To be honest, the Free Folk are the most damage in this process, because they can't have a neutrals. At this point, someone if you're not a free folk player, you can find something to put into your army.
Yeah. Right then, we're on to tournament news now. The main thing we're really going to talk about is the ELO event. Now, Bartender, I don't think you've been involved with anything ELO. I don't think you have yet, Bloodraven either. We
Probably
talked about
not.
it last week.
No, nobody yet has
No.
played a single game of it. Even I haven't.
I know, right? So Bloodraven first, then. What are your opinions? First of all, do you guys understand the ELO system that we've been talking about there?
I get the idea. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's fine by me. And I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of taking less used commanders. I like the idea of taking stuff that you have to fight uphill battle. To be honest, I'm kind of used to fighting uphill battles as a Lannister player, so but that's probably just me. The one thing that I was kind of surprised, and I think that it's putting a lot of people more competitive-minded players in a strange situation, is the fact that ELO changes during the tournament. So we had a chat with Furioku on our local group today, when he was saying that, okay, so everyone are going to take Roderick because he is very good, but he's underrated as a start commander, and you could really pull things with him. You just need a bit more, let's just say, brain to use more than activation tactic. But then in the middle of the tournament, the Roderick stats will go up, and you're in a bad situation. So that's something what is harder for the players who are focused on winning more than I am.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I mean, as a competitive player myself, I actually really like that, because it means that what I have to do is I have to take something good, take something bad, perform well with it, but also be consistent. I can't just be like, oh, I won a game once and that was fine. I actually have to go for the majority of the tournament and go, look, I'm winning consistently. And I think that's more important, whereas just winning one random game towards the start and then boosting up a little bit, then maybe winning a second game, and then if it was a long tournament, going 8-9 games, I'd be like, well, actually towards the end of it, because I've now lost that, it would suffer.
Let's not play another 8-9. Let's not play another 8-9 game tournament again.
Let's not play a tournament that long. All of us were in the TSL, right? We were all in the TSL, weren't we?
Yep.
And that was long. That was long.
That was a long one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No. Cool. Right. Bartender, what about yourself? ELO.
Do you understand it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to agree to get it.
Honestly, this is a question I'm left with constantly, which is like, have I explained it to people at all? I even wrote a document for it. Probably, you will know, Bartender, nobody reads the document that you wrote inside TTS for how to use TTS. They will come and ask you. Point is that I'm never sure whether or not anybody understands any of the maths and algorithms that I put into a Song of Fire stats. I try and tell them how it works, but I'm never sure if people do understand. So do you understand it?
So I couldn't, I don't understand the exact math behind it. So for sure I don't understand that, but I understand the concept. I watched enough stats chats, so cool. I think I get the idea, and I understand how it's self-correcting, and basically there's a kind of constant flux as it prefers the most recent results, basically. So yeah, I get it. As for the tournament format, so I don't know if you explain anywhere exactly how it's going to be calculated. The one thing that I thought was maybe a bit too harsh, if I recall correctly what you explained, you could basically end up in a situation where you win but still get less points than your opponent. I would have thought, okay, maybe you should cap it at, you can't get more points than your opponent at that point, so that it's basically a tie. So that it can't get worse than that.
There is roughly, if you're using a commander who is more than 200 ELO rating points higher than your opponent. So the very highest gap at the moment is basically Howland at like 220 to Drogo at minus 140. So that's like 360 gap. So at that point, basically the Drogo player has like a ×3 multiplier, and the Howland player has a divide by 3 multiplier. But what's interesting about what's interesting about ELO is that if we talk a tiny bit about maths, is it's a normalized curve. So the thing is when we're close to the center, the multiplier is really, really small. It's not linear. So it's not like, so at a 300 gap, it's a ×3 multiplier. At a 200 gap, it's a ×2 multiplier, or anything like that. Point is that once we get to the very extremes, and like you're saying, there are extremes in the system right now. It's pretty much the very, very bottom commanders versus, which is basically all Targaryens. The worst Targaryens versus like the top few commanders become real extremes because they're really, really far apart. The system thinks that Targaryen player only has about a 10% chance of winning the game, and therefore the multiplier gets really, really big. You're right that the crossover happens at about 200 gap, plus or minus. So you should, in my opinion, be fielding at least one commander who is roughly 0 rated, and then you will never have to play into a matchup which is worse than a 200 multiplier. And the winner will always get the most points. But if you choose to play, Howland, or up there, you're still talking about High Sparrow, Tyrion. If they play into the worst commanders, they are still really, really bad matchups. It scales off quite quickly. Courtney is probably okay
75.
At 75. Yeah, touch and go. There's a lot of Stark commanders in the middle just because of the inherent strength of the Starks. They're all sort of okay. But yeah, you're right. I did consider a cap, but as soon as we put a cap on, you might as well play the top commander again. Because you can't possibly, do badly. Do you get what I mean? Like, why would you ever pick a middle commander when you might as well just pick the top commander and you'll get capped anyway? Like, so it is difficult. I do think it is effectively a ban on any commander who is over 100 rated. But that's a player-based choice. You can still play that commander if you want. But you do need to be very aware that if you play that commander and then you come up against Drogo, you've literally forfeited the chance to score points because the system thinks you're going to win that you couldn't possibly surprise it. It's like you won, so what? You know what I mean? Like that's basically what the system's saying. The system's saying.
So don't lose though. Oh my god,
don't
lose.
If you want to win a tournament like that, you shouldn't look at the top. You should look at the bottom, at least in my opinion. And you mentioned before it's normalized curve. So what you want to do as a competitive win out, because try hard typical player, which I personally despise a bit, is to get to the lower part of the ranking and took something that is secretly good but is underrated in a way that's missing from the view of a lot of people out there.
It was that was a general theme for the patrons version of the tournament that we're running as a little test. It was a general theme and discussion around Mother of Dragons, for example. No one here thinks Mother of Dragons is as bad as she's currently rated. From what we understand from games we've seen have been played in, from test games that we've played, there is a lot to suggest she's fighting her way to tier 1 status, at least in some of the scenarios. So we obviously think that Mother of Dragons is underranked, and we believe, from testing that we've done.
I would compare her to High Sparrow Tyrion. I don't think she actually quite beats Rob and Howland myself. I don't think she has that level of consistency. maybe she's somewhere a little bit higher, but I would, if I had to give her a rating, in my opinion, she will end up at roughly plus 100.
Yeah.
So, that she's currently minus 75 or whatever it is, tells you that you really should be taking her into an event which gives you a handicap based on what that rating is, which is why everybody, by choice, because it's a small test event, the Patreon Cup have chosen not to use her. For the event, which we'll talk about in a minute, Brett's running a interesting format 1-day TTS event, and he's running the ELO handicap. He has outright banned Q4 releases.
Yeah.
So she will also not be in that. But issue is with that thing, the ELO, her ELO will only fix itself with more submissions. So people need to play her, otherwise she will always
Dragons is one thing, but personally, I would go for Rus in Targaryens.
Yeah.
Targaryen Rus, yeah, interesting. I mean, I think Drogo. I think that Drogo is very strong. I think Drogo. What's interesting is what I actually think is interesting. I really want to see happen, and I really will see how it pans out. Is Drogo will have a very, very tough time playing in a properly competitive event against Tyrion, Robb, stuff like that. But let's find out, if you want to pick Drogo, how well does he do when he plays into loads of other mid-tier commanders? As Chris Eustace, Elite Teddy is saying from the ELO event, a lot of people have decided that Tywin at minus 75 is a really underrated commander. That his Lannister rating right now is very, very low. What that is kind of a cause of is that Tyrion is generally just a better commander. And so good players pick Tyrion, and not so good players, or people playing not so competitive lists or playing not 100% to win, are picking Tywin, and then Tywin's rating goes down and down and down because those players don't win as many games. Doesn't mean that Tywin is necessarily that bad, but all evidence is that he's not winning games. So we'll see how good a pick Tywin is at minus 75. But you're right. Things like Drogo as the bottom-rated commander at 140 is a brilliant selection into the ELO handicap. You can't do that badly. Even when you lose, you'll probably score, nearly two TPs. A loss is almost a draw in a lot of cases.
I have one comment on that, and using your words there, Carlo, and that is Howlin and Robb aren't that good. It's just very specific builds that make them very good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So, and I guess that's not really taken into account, right? You just look at the pure ELO for that commander, right?
It's very true. I've spoken to some people who have asked about it and stuff like that. Basically, unless we ELO'd every single unit in the game, we can never quantify, like mathematically, we can never quantify how good your build is. We can, what the stage, if people actually remember back 6 months ago or whatever, when I first built the site, we only used to ELO factions. We didn't actually use to ELO commanders at all. So, there is the possibility in the future to ELO every unit in the game, and that your ELO rating would be based on the exact army list that you're running. But that's a whole, that's tons and tons of data being moved around, and it's probably unnecessary. But, maybe with the ELO handicap, it feels a little bit more necessary. But point is you are right that that Robb can build a bad list. It's kind of hard. Stocks actually barely have any bad units.
You go full neutral.
But Robb has this incredibly high rating because he is so regularly fielded as like an absolute A tier list, 2-3 direwolves, backed up by like Bran Berserkers and Tully Cavaliers and all this stuff, and it's a perfect storm of really powerful stuff. But nothing stops Roderick with a much lower rating from running almost exactly the same list, just -1 direwolf. I do believe that the commanders at the bottom are not as far away from the commanders at the top as the ELO rankings actually suggest. I think that they're falsely pushed further apart because the people who pick good lists pick the same winning commanders again and again. And that what this will hopefully actually do, the real thing that it will do differently is if all the best players decide that they're going to play the bottom rated commander, and more importantly, they're building the best possible list that they can with them, then their ratings will increase. And the ELO system as a whole, the actual values that these commanders have, will start to fix themselves. Whereas at the moment, it's a self-repeating cycle that the best players are picking the best top-rated commanders, and only the top-rated commanders are ever getting fixed in terms of the ELOs, and everybody in the middle and the bottom is being completely ignored. When you just look merely at like the number of submissions that most commanders have, they're pathetic. And then you go and look at Rob and Howland, and Rob and Howland have more submissions than the neutral faction as a whole. You know, like that's a problem. Like you can't. Our system, the system of A Song of Ice and Fire stats isn't balanced for that reason. But this hopefully really will actually, if anything, it will create more balance. And if everybody thinks that Drogo's underrated, Drogo gets played, his rating will go up. Next event, there'll be a new commander at the bottom that all the competitive players think, I'll go play that new bottom commander, and that one will fix itself. And over time, and if anything, even if Drogo is the best pick, at least it's different each time. Each tournament, it will be different. So at the moment, I feel like each tournament's the same, and I guess it will at least create some new stuff. I don't think it's perfect. Like, I think it's better. I think that it will improve itself, and it needs time. Similar to the ranking system as a whole. You know, when I first made the ranking system as a whole, people were like, it doesn't work. Like, how a Stark's not number one? It's because it takes like an amount of data before we get there. You know, like it's not just day one the system works. But if people try it, we'll see what happens, and I'll make some adjustments if it needs to be. We might need to put a cap in there if it becomes that nobody wants to play any commander that's got a positive rating or something like that. But I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic.
I think Charles makes the very good point there. You know, what it does is it creates data around things we have less data around, or perhaps false data, you know, and data is always important. We can only analyze the data we've got, and creating data like Vargo, like the eternal problem with Vargo, and Carlo will go on to a diatribe about Vargo most of the time when this comes up, which I'm going to prevent him doing today. But essentially the problem with Vargo is not that Vargo is good or bad. We actually just don't know. We have no concept about how good.
I mean, we know.
Yeah, we know because no one ever plays him. That tells you everything. But there's the problem. We have no way of quantifying it.
Have you seen Mama Skirmishes, mate? We know.
I know. Which brings me to a point. I chose Vargo.
Is great Lannister commander.
Yeah.
He's a poor man's Tywin, you know.
Poor man's Tywin.
No. He works better in Lannister than in neutral, so it's tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Like Ramsay feels like he works in Lannisters. Roose feels like he works in Lannisters. Vargo feels like he works in Lannisters. I guess the only one who doesn't feel he fits there is Dario.
Yeah.
To be honest, like they favor money bags anyway. So if Dario works in Lannisters just buy their way to the top. So
money's the way
I
forward.
was playing with Dario in Lannisters some time ago. His cards are kind of cool because he's feeding the critical blow part of Lannister faction. So you can go at least with full glass cannon, and you put Dario in the unit of guardsmen. You add a happy tree somewhere, you park them there, and you have +2 save and 6+ morale with Lannister supremacy and no minuses.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fun list to play.
Yeah. No, I think there's some interesting things coming out, and I think we're going to see some. I mean, this guy, he entered a double Tywin list. Incredible. I think we're going to see some interesting things anyway, just from our thing. Yeah. I mean, just to show you how much
we're going to get that played hopefully as soon as possible. It might be done before the other event kicks off, but I think like December the 5th or something like that off the top of my head, there's going to be a 1-day tournament called ELO Handicap first of its name. There we go. Tournament of the Unchosen, which actually I quite like as the name. Brett discussed with me, he wanted to. So initially, Brett said he wanted to ban certain commanders, or that he wanted to tier everybody's lists. A little bit more like what you're talking about, Bartender, where like, we actually take account of exactly what's in your list. I said I'm not a big fan of it because I think it's really, really subjective. I think that it's really, really hard to do that. I think if we listen to people's subjective opinions, then as opposed to what the stats say, then Melisandre would be top tier, and so would Stone Throwers. Just because people don't like them doesn't mean that they're actually powerful. But I told him that I'd already created this ELO system, and he's run with it, and that's great. So hopefully any kinks will have been worked out by the time his event comes along. But anybody who's entering that event can have a look at the Patreon Cup and see how things panned out. We'll see how well those tie wins did. I'm running, I forget now, did I actually run Drogo in the end? No, I ran Dario. So I'm running the second lowest rated commander in the game. So we'll see just how many points that scores for me. There are some people still running high rated commanders. We still see a Howland in there. I think might have been a Tyrion. At least there was at one point.
There's a Joffrey.
Yeah. Oh, Joffrey. There we go. Yeah, Joffrey is still rated 5th. So we'll see what happens when these people get matched up against each other. We'll see what actually happens in reality, because, like I say, it's a ton of maths, which I just tested in a test environment. And, all I can do is make up the result of the game and then submit it and see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one-day event seems really interesting. So why don't we talk about that one?
Yeah, so it's a one-day event. He's trying out two things, obviously the ELO system being the topic of discussion for the last minutes there, but he's also trying it as a one-day event, like it would be a tournament event. Now, in the nicest possible sense, all of us here are European, and so with Brett running it from the US, it pretty much rules most of us out, which is a bit of a shame. But of course, we can learn from it. Yeah, you're basically semi-American. But the idea being,
I was chatting with Brett, and when he gave me the time scope, I was like, so it ends like 2 a.m. Okay, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
So I'm usually up to this point anyway.
Oh, there you go. But it is, so it's a one-day event. It's run as a tournament day would be, and you're given, is it about an hour and a half or hour and 3/4 per game. And you're expected to play the game in that time, and there'll be, I guess, 15-minute breaks between games and a 45-minute lunch break, and you'll play, is it 4 or 5 games throughout the day, I think is the plan. I don't know exactly how many rounds he's got planned.
54, which would be a five-game event.
5 games.
One of the things I didn't actually discuss is one of the interesting advantages of the ELO handicap is because you don't score fixed number of TPs. It's not 3-3-3-3. You don't need as many games to have a single winner. Yeah. You actually can have a single winner after just one game, and it's a test of who won with the lowest rated commander would actually be the question. But point is that you can shave 1 to 2 rounds off the event. And it really promotes people to run the low-rated commanders because they need to score as many points with every game as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm kind of interested how well this will translate the atmosphere of normal physical event to the online space.
Yeah.
It's the thing that it's most interesting for me.
What I'd like to see a lot would be, we've done it before on Discord with the likes of, Bartender, you, Blood Raven, we've been at the TSL, we'd all sit in the same Discord room watching games. And I wonder whether or not that'll happen, where you'll finish your game, but you won't just log off. You might go get a drink, but you'll end up just going, oh, that game over there's finishing up, I'll go watch them for a little bit. Or, you'll go chat with your friends while you're waiting for your next game to start, and you'll hang out in Discord lobbies. So maybe it's that. I know the Germans do that a lot, actually, I think, Bartender. You kind of hang around a lot in the Discord, don't you? In things like that. So.
Yeah, especially in the Tabletop Warden Discord, that's where we hang out quite a bit to chat or watch one another's games, and that was really fun during the TSL. So I would imagine in an event like that, that's certainly going to happen.
At the start of TSL, we had inside the team poof, we had idea with Therapeuta that we should go to one of the houses and just watch the game. The one team member is playing someone. And obviously be as mean as possible.
Oh, of course. Of course, yeah. You've got to slag your teammates off because no one else will.
Exactly. Everybody else would be too nice and say, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that." Whereas you can just be like, "What an idiot! What is he playing at?"
You should see our messenger group.
Oh, ours is probably no better.
As long as it's aimed at Stannis,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super interested. I'm almost interested enough to enter myself, even though the time zone, is it's not perfect for me, But I am very interested to know what it feels like to play in an event like that.
Yep.
Playing on TTS feels very different to playing in person. It's been a very, very long time since I played a game of TTS where I ever really considered it to have much time pressure, particularly 1 hour, an hour and 3/4. That's going to be a very tight schedule on TTS. Partly because I think that people have gotten used to just playing games over or maybe just me, gotten used to playing games over such a long period on TTS. It's not that it's inherently slower once you get used to it, and we have all the buttons that help us move and stuff like that. But people spend longer thinking about their moves. People, the thing that I don't like, but people, they move because they can, because you can undo stuff. They move, check a position, then they undo it, then they undo it, then they pull a tray out and check if something can fit. And because we're able to be this precise and play the game in a almost higher level way, people have gotten so used to it. But it's a slow way of playing, you can't do that in 1 hour 35. And I think 1 hour 45, and it might bring the game back to just more just who's good. Do you know what I mean? Just who's good, who can make second decisions, not make mistakes when there's
I think it brings a different kind of mentality. I was chatting with Furioku some time ago about it, because some factions like Free Folk, they need a longer time to get the steam, at least in his opinion. So you need some time to build the position, to make attacks, to score points. And others like Stark, they can just alpha strike you and score very, very fast. So for me, playing on TTS in online events is always a bit different, because I know I will play the whole game. On tournament, sometimes I know I just have to grab for points.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So that's a different mentality.
I agree with
that. I don't know. To be honest, I think the slower pace, the slower paced version, when you can play the whole game, it's a bit better, because it gives you more time to play the game and to fulfill any strategy that you have. It gives you more option, but there is also some skill in the fast tournament game when you have small time and you don't have 6 rounds, you have 3, and that's all. And that's everything. So you have to be on this objective in round 2, or otherwise you're fucked.
A good point, definitely. All right, so we've talked about upcoming events. I just wanted to stop by and we haven't really talked about ongoing ones, and there are a couple of ongoing ones, but I think the French Masters is one I want to talk about. In case you hadn't been spotting it out, the French have been streaming a lot of their games out on YouTube, and I've been popping in and watching games and things like that going on. And we've seen round 2 start this weekend. I checked in and saw a lot of the round 1 games. I haven't seen many of the round 2 games. We've currently got a free folk player, Tonio Scorpio, who's one of the guys from the the Three-Eyed Ravens. Viking Tony from the Three-Eyed Ravens, and Bob Bernard from Three-Eyed Ravens. All at the top spots there. But of course, some of them have got 1 win, 1 loss. Tonio is the only player so far with 2 and 2. There are still other players, obviously, still to play. I do recommend watching these.
To see how high the Three-Eyed Ravens finish in that event. Maybe it's looking relatively mixed for some of them at the moment. But they were very adamant that they were middle of the pack for French competitive players, that this wasn't the best French players coming out to play with the rest of the community, that this was maybe just the ones who felt most comfortable speaking English or hated Americans and English less than all the rest. But the French are very, very strong, have a very strong competitive scene that is very like well knitted together. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how high those guys finish. And also, I'm just super interested in all the results from the event because it's one of the first Q4 full set of releases. So I assume this free folk list has some mammoths in somewhere.
No mammoths.
No mammoths, crazy.
No mammoths.
Queen, Mother of Dragons, Queen of Marine is there in play. So we're seeing them in use. We'll see how high they go.
Yeah, definitely. So guys, watch out for that. And I know I'll be watching along, and we'll no doubt catch up with you in future tournaments following that on. So yeah, we've talked about most of the upcoming ones, what's going to be happening, kind of like what's going on. We are at a little bit of a lull. There's nothing really major being announced apart from the ELO event that Brett's running, which I think is a good thing. I think we all wanted a bit of a lull in the tournament scene. I think because the TSL was
Kings of the East Coast, the Canadian TTS event is actually already about to finish. I think.
Should we check it out?
That one's really close. I think it's done its last few games. Only because I got asked about a result. The only reason why I was aware that we were so close to the finish, which is good to see.
They're using some the new stuff. Orge Bill's up there with 3 wins of 3 with his Targs.
Yeah,
Furioka.
A well-known neutral player, long-time sufferer. So we'll see. He's doing really well now that he's using something a bit stronger. I think he's always waited for Targaryens. One of those players who's played neutrals for all this time, but really all he wanted was for Targaryens to be good. The other tournament, which the other really big thing is the Spanish in-person 150 odd person regional into national event. Is soon to kick off. Like they're all about to be organized, about to be started. But I mean, it's going to be a slow burn. They're going to be playing
it's a long
league-based matches for the next couple of months. When we know what the final tournament structure looks like, that one will be really interesting when we go to plucking the best players from each of those regions, bringing them together and seeing what they're fielding and all that stuff. That will be the really, really interesting tournament, but that won't really come till January.
Yeah. Okay then, we will. I think unless there's anything you guys want to say, I think we'll leave the episode there. It's been exciting. In case anyone forgot, go and check out if you joined in late, or if for some reason you're watching this on record and you jump to the end, which is ridiculous. Don't do that. Go and watch the first 20 minutes. Bartender has a nice surprise for you. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Actually, it is beautiful to see. Definitely get in contact with Bartender if you want to help him with that project. Bloodraven, Bartender. I'll start with you, Bartender. Enjoy being on.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
It's cool.
It was a very brave thing of you to do, for sure, because I was very secretive about what I'm going to show. So,
hey,
thanks a lot.
I trusted you to keep a mod going that kept me sane for the best part of the last 6 or 7 months. I'm pretty sure I can trust you on a live stream for about an hour. Bloodraven, what about yourself?
What I can say, it was fun. Thank you for having me, and I hope you have a lot of fun with while looking at my poor paint job.
Hey, I really like the look of those Lannister NCUs, man. They look sick.
I don't like your High Sparrow in green. I have to say,
High Sparrow is not in green.
Is it not in green? It looked really.
The front is white and green.
High Sparrow is in rainbow colors. So
okay.
Full fade guy.
Then I'll have a good look. When I get a chance. There we go.
All right then, guys. Well, last question for you, Bartender. When are you thinking of sending this live?
I don't know yet. I hope pretty soon. I think maybe another week or 2 of scanning models to have a solid base. I would like to have a couple of unit models at least for every faction, so that nobody feels left out. And then we can basically put it live and keep adding models as we go along. Because as I've shown in that demo, and for those who haven't participated, I haven't seen that yet. The mod basically supports both. So we can still use the standees, the cardboard standees, and the 3D models, and also the import from Song of Ice and Fire stats will basically support both. So you can have both kinds of models and standees within the same unit. So even if the attachment doesn't have a 3D model yet, but the rest of the unit, that will work. It might look a bit odd, but it will work. That's so I want to get it up, yes, rather sooner than later. But really, I'm hoping for a couple of people to now reach out to me so that we can get a solid stock of models for every faction going.
Definitely. Well, we'll definitely put feelers out that we know, and we'll get people getting out there. Hint, hint, Tim, if he's still in chat.
We don't.
All right then, guys.
The two people are on the chat right now.
All right then, guys. Bartender Bloodraven, absolutely fantastic to have you on. Carlo, any last words from yourself?
No, yeah, kind of. Let's see what happens. There's loads of stuff going on. TTS is still alive and getting better than ever. Tabletop. We'll do what we can. We'll keep the game alive online for as long as we can, and hope that it flourishes again one day with Simon at the helm, bringing tabletop stuff back to life.
Yep. I just really hope one day I'm allowed to see a tabletop again without the threat of being killed mercilessly by either my government or a disease. Anyway, no, thank you very much to everyone involved, and thanks all to listeners watching it recorded or watching it live. Really appreciate you hanging out, and we'll catch you next time, same time this week, next week.
Bye, guys.
Get there.
Bye, guys.
See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya.